Rain hammered my face as security grabbed my elbows, walking me across the parking lot like some criminal. Through those glass windows, I could see them all raising their champagne flutes, laughing around her. Jessica Hunt, with that smug smile and fresh MBA, while colorful balloons bobbed against the ceiling. My personal stuff sat in a soggy cardboard box under my arm. 20 years of my career reduced to office supplies and a coffee mug. I'm Vincent Parker, 48 years old, and until 40 minutes ago, I was the senior traffic systems engineer who built something nobody else in this company understood. I caught Andrew Stevens' eye through the streaked glass. My boss for the last 2 years, but I'd actually trained him when he was a junior engineer back in the day. He lifted his glass higher in some theatrical toast, and I could read his lips even through the rain. "She'll fix your mess." That stung more than I expected. See, I'd spent 5 years creating the most advanced traffic optimization system this city had ever seen. Not weekends here and there, I'm talking about real dedication. Missing family dinners, working through holidays, solving problems that kept other engineers awake at night, building something that would actually save lives and make this city function for once. They'd been cutting my team piece by piece over the last 18 months. Optimizing resources, they called it. Meanwhile, I kept the whole thing running by myself, putting in 60-hour weeks just to maintain what we'd built. "We're pursuing alternative methodologies," Andrew had announced earlier, sliding an empty cardboard box across his desk. "Someone with more conventional approaches." I didn't beg or make a scene, just nodded and felt something twist in my gut. 5 years of my expertise, my problem solving, dismissed with corporate speak and fancy words that meant nothing. Patrick, the security guard who'd smiled at me every morning for 3 years, couldn't look me in the eye as he watched me load my soaked box into my 10-year-old sedan. "Protocol," he mumbled, sounding almost apologetic. So there I sat in my car, watching the celebration continue through rain-blurred windows. They'd been grooming Jessica for months, the rising star with impressive credentials who questioned my methods in every meeting. "Wouldn't a traditional framework be more sustainable?" she'd ask. Easy to say when you've never dealt with real traffic chaos during rush hour or emergency situations. I turned the key and my engine sputtered to life. Traditional frameworks, conventional approaches, code words for "we don't understand what you built, so we're replacing you with something familiar." Now let me explain what I actually created here because it's important for what happens next. This wasn't your typical traffic light system that changes every 90 seconds no matter what's happening on the street. This was something completely different, invisible architecture that made sure ambulances always found clear paths, that rush hour flowed instead of stopping dead, that 2 million people could move through the city like water instead of getting stuck in massive parking lots. I didn't look like your typical genius engineer. At 48, with graying hair I never bothered styling and a preference for practical clothes over corporate fashion, I was easy to underestimate. But my colleagues learned pretty quickly that my mind worked differently. I could see patterns where others saw chaos, understand traffic flow rhythms the way some people understand music. My apartment felt hollow when I got home that night. The divorce had been finalized 2 years ago. Sarah finally got tired of competing with my work schedule for attention. Both kids were off at college now, supported by the steady paycheck I'd just lost. Just me and the echo of wet shoes on hardwood floors. Here's what really got to me. I'd given everything to that job. My social life dried up years ago because I was always working on something critical. Dating apps on my phone just collected digital dust. Family stopped expecting me at gatherings because I'd inevitably have some emergency to handle. But you know what? It wasn't supposed to end like this. Just think about it. Back in the spring, my project had received glowing preliminary reviews. City officials were amazed by early simulations showing 35% reductions in emergency response times. The mayor herself said, "This could save lives." How did you do it? I couldn't fully explain it to her. The system worked because I'd spent 5 years learning invisible patterns, adjusting for weather variations, crowd psychology, historical data that nobody else bothered analyzing. I'd basically coded my intuition into the system, making thousands of tiny adjustments that no textbook could teach you. That's when Andrew hired Jessica. "Just to lighten your workload," he assured me with one of those thin smiles. "The board wants fresh perspectives." Jessica, with her crisp blazers and flawless PowerPoint presentations. Jessica, who had theories about everything but had never actually built anything that worked in the real world. Jessica, who gradually started appearing in meetings I wasn't invited to, somehow gaining access to my preliminary designs, smiling sympathetically when I worked late. "You should take better care of yourself," she'd say while quietly cataloging my methods, my insights, my breakthroughs. The first night after getting fired, my phone stayed quiet. The second day, too. They were probably still celebrating their brilliant personnel decision back at the office. The heart of their operation, my creation, was now in Jessica's perfectly manicured hands. I sat on my balcony that second night, watching city lights flicker through the clearing rain, thinking about how 5 years of my life had just been erased with corporate pleasantries and cheap champagne toasts. What I didn't know yet was that my real story was just beginning. Sleep didn't come easy that night, but I managed. The next morning I was making coffee when it started. My phone lit up and vibrated, Jessica's name on the screen. I watched it ring until it stopped. 3 minutes later, another call, then another. By noon, I'd counted 7 missed calls, each one coming faster than the last. By evening, the count hit 12. No voicemails, no texts, just desperate, persistent calling that told me everything I needed to know. At midnight, as I sat on my bedroom floor going through old notebooks, all the physical proof of how I'd actually built this thing, the 19th call came through. I watched my phone buzz against the hardwood, imagining Jessica's panic as she faced tomorrow's implementation deadline. See, here's what they never understood. My traffic system wasn't just code and algorithms you could hand off to someone else. It was me, my way of seeing the world, my patterns of thought translated into digital form. The system worked because I worked, because I'd poured my unique understanding into every line, every function, every decision tree. Those notebooks contained equations and diagrams, sure, but not the invisible connections that only I could see. That night, I finally got some decent sleep, phone silent beside me. Morning brought 27 missed calls. I made coffee and watched sunrise paint my living room gold. For the first time in years, I had nowhere to be. No crushing deadlines, no midnight coding sessions fueled by energy drinks and desperation. Just this strange emptiness stretching ahead. My phone buzzed again. Not Jessica this time, but Nicole, the only junior engineer who'd survived the team optimization 8 months ago. I hesitated, then answered. Vincent. Her voice was hushed, urgent. "It's falling apart. The entire North Quadrant grid locked up yesterday afternoon. Ambulances couldn't get through. They had to dispatch helicopters for 3 separate emergencies." I said nothing, just listened to her rapid breathing. Jessica keeps trying to recalibrate using standard parameters, but it's making everything worse. Andrew's losing his mind. The mayor called twice yesterday. "Sounds challenging," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Challenging? It's a complete disaster. The board called an emergency meeting. The city's threatening to terminate the contract." Nicole paused. "They need you." "No, they fired me," I corrected, surprised by how calm I sounded. "They escorted me out while celebrating my replacement. They don't need me. They're just experiencing consequences." "Vincent, please. Real people are suffering." That hit different than I expected. Real people. Not just Andrew with his backstabbing smile or Jessica with her stolen position. Ordinary citizens trying to get through their daily lives. "I have to go, Nicole. Wait." I ended the call, set the phone down carefully, and walked to my window. The city sprawled below. My city with its unique rhythm and flow, its complex network of human movement that I'd spent years learning to understand. People were suffering because of corporate arrogance, but that wasn't really their fault. About an hour later, my doorbell rang. I knew who it would be before I opened it. Andrew stood there, his usually perfect appearance completely disheveled. His silver hair stuck up oddly, his tie was loose, and dark circles shadowed his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "Vincent," he said, attempting a smile that didn't match his desperate expression. "Can I come in?" I didn't move from the doorway. "Why? We need to talk. Professionally. I don't work for you anymore, remember? The security escort? The champagne toast to my replacement?" He actually winced. That was unfortunate timing. "Was it? Or was it exactly what you intended? Humiliate me on my way out? Look, We're facing some serious technical challenges with the implementation. Jessica is brilliant, but she's encountering some unexpected variables in your architecture. I leaned against the door frame. My mess, you mean? Isn't that what you called it while raising your glass? His polished facade started cracking. I read lips, Andrew. Useful skill I developed during all those meetings where you talked over me. He straightened up, switching tactics. The city is experiencing severe disruption. Emergency services are compromised. This is bigger than professional disagreements. Absolutely, I nodded. Sounds like an excellent opportunity for Jessica to demonstrate those conventional approaches you were so excited about. Vincent, please, we're prepared to offer you a consulting contract. Triple your former salary. Just help us stabilize the system. I studied the man who'd dismissed 5 years of my work as a mess, who'd watched me get escorted out like a criminal, who'd toasted my replacement before my desk was even cold. No. No? Just like that? Just like that. Same way you fired me. His face got hard. This isn't about your wounded pride. Lives are literally at stake. They always were. That's why I worked 60-hour weeks perfecting that system while you cut my team to improve quarterly numbers. That's why I missed my daughter's graduation optimizing emergency vehicle routing. That's why I skipped holidays and vacations and sleep. My voice stayed level. You never cared about lives when it was me sacrificing everything for them. I'll go to the board, he threatened. I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. I actually smiled at that. Go ahead. Tell them exactly how badly you mismanaged this transition. Explain why you fired the one person who understood the system without ensuring proper knowledge transfer. I'm sure they'll be impressed with your leadership. All the color drained from his face. What do you want? For you to leave my apartment. After Andrew left, I turned my phone off and took a long shower. Water washed over me as I thought about what Nicole had said. Real people suffering. That reality sat heavy on my conscience. Whatever Andrew and Jessica deserved, the city didn't deserve this chaos, so I spent that afternoon walking through downtown, seeing firsthand what had happened to my system. Traffic lights changing in completely nonsensical patterns. Vehicles bunched up at intersections that should have been flowing smoothly. Horns blaring continuously in this symphony of frustration that made my teeth ache. On one corner, I watched an elderly man wait 7 full minutes for a pedestrian signal that never came. Local news vans were clustered near City Hall. A reporter stood before cameras, gesturing dramatically at the chaos behind him. Day 5 of what officials are calling the grid crisis, with no resolution in sight. By evening, I'd made my decision. Not for Andrew, not for the company, for the city and the people living in it. That's when things started getting interesting. I called Nicole back. I need specifics. What exactly is happening with the system? Her relief was obvious even through the phone. Jessica tried implementing her standardized algorithm package. Everything ran fine in simulation, but collapsed under real conditions. She can't figure out why your code works in some sectors but not others, why some intersections adapt while others just freeze up completely. Because she's looking for consistent rules where there aren't any, I explained. The system doesn't follow textbook principles. It's adaptive, organic. That's what I tried telling her. She keeps saying your documentation is insufficient. I had to laugh at that. My documentation is meticulous. She just doesn't understand what she's reading. Will you help? Please? Even just advice. I thought about it for a moment. I'll think about it. The next morning I got a text from an unknown number. Just an address, a time, and 5 words. Please, for the city. Mayor Michelle. I recognized the address. A small cafe far from corporate headquarters. Neutral ground. Smart move. Mayor Michelle Rodriguez looked exhausted when I arrived. The weight of a paralyzed city was written all over her face in new lines and dark circles. She stood as I approached her corner table. Thank you for coming, she said, extending her hand. I haven't agreed to anything, I reminded her, sitting down. I know. But you're here, which means you care what happens to this city, the same way you cared when you designed a system that could have transformed urban mobility forever. Could have. Your contractor is considering shutting it down completely, reverting to the old system. I felt an unexpected pang at the thought of my creation being scrapped. That would be unfortunate. It would be catastrophic, she corrected. Emergency response times are up 40%. We've had 2 traffic fatalities that might have been prevented with faster ambulance arrival. Schools can't run buses on schedule. People can't get to work. The server brought our coffee. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, buying myself time to think. I understand you were treated poorly, the mayor continued, her voice gentle but direct. I witnessed your dedication during development. I saw the brilliance of what you built, and I was shocked to learn you'd been removed from the project. Did they tell you I was removed, or did they say I left? She met my eyes. They said you'd moved on to other opportunities. I knew it was corporate speak for something else. They fired me without warning, replaced me with someone who questioned my methods without understanding them. Had a celebration while security marched me out. She winced. I'm sorry. Truly. But right now, 2 million people are suffering because the system you built, the system that worked beautifully, is failing without you. It's failing because they thought anyone could take over without understanding the underlying approach, because they valued credentials over proven results. I know, she interrupted, and they were catastrophically wrong. But punishing them is punishing everyone else, too. I stared into my coffee, feeling conflicted. The mayor reached across the table, not quite touching my hand. Help us fix this, not for them, for the city. I can hire you directly as a municipal consultant, bypass the company entirely. They own the system. They licensed it to us, and right now, they're in breach of contract by providing non-functional infrastructure. We have legal grounds. For the first time in days, I felt something spark inside me, a possibility I hadn't considered. I'd need certain guarantees, I said slowly. Complete creative control. My name on everything. The patents, the white papers, everything. And I choose my own team. Mayor Rodriguez's eyes widened slightly. You've thought about this. I'm always thinking. It's both my greatest strength and why I don't sleep much. She nodded. I'll make it happen. Walking home from that meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. Emergency board meeting tomorrow. Andrew saying system needs complete rebuild. Jessica blaming sabotage in your code. Help. I smiled to myself. Sabotage. Of course. Because it couldn't possibly be that Jessica, with all her prestigious degrees and conventional thinking, simply couldn't comprehend what I'd built. It had to be deliberate undermining rather than her own limitations. That night, organizing my notes and preparing for what would come next, I got one final call from Jessica herself. I answered on the last ring. Vincent. Her voice was tight, controlled. We need to talk. We're talking now, I replied. I know what you did. The missing protocols, the undocumented overrides, the intentionally misleading variable names. You set me up to fail. I genuinely laughed. Is that what you think? That I somehow anticipated being fired and deliberately created a system no one else could run? Then explain why nothing works the way it should. Maybe it works exactly as it should. Maybe you just don't understand how it should work. Long silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice smaller than before. I need your help. 3. Small words that must have cost Jessica's pride dearly. I savored the moment, thinking of her, standing in the wreckage of what she'd so confidently believed she could handle. Interesting, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. A week ago, you were explaining to the board how my approach was needlessly complicated. I was wrong, she admitted, the words tight and clipped. The system is beyond conventional understanding. No, it's beyond your understanding. There's a difference. Her breathing changed, a sharp intake that told me she was struggling to keep it together. People are suffering, Vincent. Whatever you think of me, they don't deserve this. The same argument the mayor had made. The same moral weight pressed on my shoulders. I'll meet with you, I said finally. Not at the office. The public library, main branch, 3rd floor study room. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you, she breathed. I'll bring everything. Don't bring anything, I interrupted. No laptops, no tablets, just yourself and a pen. I ended the call and stood by my window, watching night settle over the struggling city. In the distance, sirens wailed. Another emergency vehicle fighting through congestion my system should have cleared automatically. Tomorrow would be interesting. The library was nearly empty when I arrived the next morning. Jessica was already there, sitting rigidly in the study room, hair pulled back severely, dark circles shadowing her eyes. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Thank you for coming," she said, standing as I entered. I set my notebook on the table. "Let's be clear. I'm not here to save your career. I understand. Do you? You took my job. You celebrated while security escorted me out. You told everyone you could fix my mess." She had the decency to look away. For the next hour, Jessica detailed the cascading failures. The more she spoke, the clearer it became that she'd tried to impose textbook solutions on my organic architecture, like trying to control a living ecosystem with mechanical rules. "It's not rational," she concluded, frustration obvious. "Sectors that should behave identically respond completely differently to the same inputs, because they're not identical. Each sector has its own personality. Traffic grids don't have personalities." I turned my notebook toward her, showing diagrams. "You're treating the system like it's built on static algorithms when it's actually responsive to thousands of subtle variables you're not even measuring." She stared at my sketches. "This isn't in any of the documentation, because it can't be documented in traditional ways. It's not about rules. It's about relationships between factors that most engineers don't consider important." "Like what?" "Like the fact that the North Quadrant moves differently on baseball game days, even when accounting for stadium traffic, because driver psychology changes. Or that the downtown grid needs different timing when it rains because pedestrians create unique patterns depending on where building awnings are located. That's impossible to systematize. Not impossible, just beyond conventional approaches." I closed my notebook. "Which is why you're failing." Her face hardened. "So will you help?" "I haven't decided. What would it take?" I studied this woman who had so confidently stepped into my position, who had dismissed years of my work with casual certainty that she could do better. "I want the board to understand exactly what happened, how my system actually works, why it failed under your management, the complete truth." She went pale. "You want me to admit failure publicly? I want accountability from everyone involved." Jessica stared at her hands. "Andrew will never agree. He's telling the board your system was fundamentally flawed from the beginning. That's why he brought me in. Then I guess the city stays paralyzed." I stood to leave. "Wait." Jessica reached across the table. "What if I tell the truth without him? At this afternoon's emergency board meeting?" I paused. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're right. Because I was wrong. Because this isn't about careers anymore." I didn't entirely believe her sudden moral clarity, but I nodded. "This afternoon's meeting. I'll be watching what happens very carefully." 3 hours later, I was sitting in the corporate lobby when Nicole appeared. "Vincent, the board requested your presence." I followed her into that familiar conference room. Every head turned toward me, some curious, some hostile, some unreadable. "Thank you for joining us," the chairman said carefully. "Miss Hunt has been sharing some revelatory information about your traffic system design." I nodded but said nothing. "She suggests that the current implementation failures are not due to flaws in your original design, but rather misapplication of conventional algorithms to your adaptive architecture." I turned to Andrew, whose face had flushed an unhealthy shade of red. "Interesting choice of words for firing the one person who understood the multi-million-dollar system you'd contracted to deliver." "Now see here," Andrew began, but the chairman raised his hand. "Mr. Parker, the situation is critical. The city is threatening legal action. Our reputation is suffering immeasurable damage. We need solutions." "I agree completely," I replied calmly, "which is why I've accepted a position as direct consultant to the mayor's office, effective immediately." The room erupted in confused murmurs. "You've what?" Andrew sputtered. "The city has exercised its contractual right to engage independent expertise when the primary contractor fails to deliver functional infrastructure," I explained. "Since you licensed my system to them but can no longer make it work, they've hired me to fix it." You can't," Andrew stammered. "Actually, she can," interrupted a new voice. Mayor Rodriguez stood in the doorway, flanked by her legal counsel. "As of 9 a.m. this morning, the city has formally notified your company of material breach. We're exercising our right to engage Mr. Parker directly." The chairman's expression darkened. "This is highly irregular." "So, was firing the creator of a proprietary system without ensuring knowledge transfer?" the mayor replied smoothly. My system will be fully operational within 72 hours, I added, under my direct management with my own team. Your team? Andrew laughed harshly. You don't have a team. I will. Starting with Nicole, who I'm hiring away from you effective today, along with any other engineers who understand the value of adaptive thinking over conventional approaches. That was 3 months ago. Today I'm reviewing quarterly reports for Vincent Parker Municipal Solutions in my new office overlooking the city. My traffic system hums perfectly below. Emergency vehicles gliding through clear corridors, rush hour flowing like water finding its natural course. The revenge I'd imagined wasn't what actually happened. It wasn't watching Andrew get terminated after the board meeting. It wasn't seeing Jessica transfer to a different department. It wasn't even the mayor's announcement that the city was permanently ending its contract with my former company. The real revenge came when my restored system silently, elegantly resumed functioning across the city, when emergency response times dropped to record lows, when traffic flowed like a living organism again, when the mayor held a press conference announcing the innovative approach pioneered by municipal consultant Vincent Parker that would become a model for cities nationwide. The sweetest moment wasn't the job offers flooding my inbox or the industry recognition. It was last week, walking past my former company's headquarters on my way to City Hall. Through the glass lobby, I saw moving boxes and people clearing out desks. The city contract, their primary revenue source, had been permanently reassigned to my municipal innovation division. Near the entrance stood Andrew, looking shell-shocked, watching his empire crumble. Our eyes met through the glass. I didn't smile or gloat, just nodded once and continued walking toward my team of brilliant, unconventional thinkers waiting at City Hall. Because true revenge isn't about destruction, it's about building something better from the ashes of what was taken from you. And sometimes, if you're patient and you really know what you're doing, you get to watch the people who dismissed you realize just how badly they underestimated what you were capable of all along. That's a feeling worth waiting for.